All right, here we go. Inktober day 16. The word is rocket. I'm doing my boys. I kind of hate doing this because these aren't very great representations of them. I just don't really have the time to really make them good, and so I almost hate to say that this is them. I can't do their cuteness justice. I really can't. You're going to see this drawing and be like, oh, I see some little boys there. That's cute. But if you knew what these guys really look like, you know I'm not doing them justice. Also, I've come to realize that every parent thinks their kid is the cutest kid in the world. I'm no exception to that. But I think I know why, actually. It used to just be kind of seem to me that people were just ignorant and stars in their eyes or whatever. But I think what it is when you know someone, the better you know someone, the more you love them. And with your own kids, you're around them all the time, so you love them more. And you see little nuances. It's crazy how your brain builds what you recognize in a person. So much more than just what you see. Typically, we tend to think that we recognize someone just by all their facial features and all that kind of stuff, but really, I think your brain rounds out kind of a complete understanding of someone by how they act, their little nuances, their idiosyncrasies. This all factors into what you know about someone. And I just think the more you know those things, the more you can love someone. Just like that's why I feel like it's actually true that when you think you love your kids more every day, you love your wife more every day, it's actually true because you're actually knowing more about them each and every day. And it's like there's so many little character traits and stuff that I know about my kids. When I see a picture of them, I see that. I know that's how they were acting that day or whatever. And the complete stranger who sees this picture, drawing, whatever it is doesn't know that. That's why when you look at other people's kids, you're kind of like, sure, cute kid, whatever. The kind of love you have for your own. I don't know what I'm listening to. It's YouTube Studios free music to put videos because I don't want to get demonetized by using the music I really want to listen to. And I understand that. It just kind of sucks that you have to go and listen to something that's like, well, I'm taking a chance. This might be good, but it's kind of not exactly what I really want to listen to. Both my boys have the biggest eyes ever. That's a hard thing too about drawing is most of us are kind of drawn, no pun intended, drawn to people's eyes, and so we tend to over exaggerate the size. If you haven't practiced drawing a lot, drawing portraits anyway, we'll tend to really exaggerate the person's eyes. And so that's really hard with these guys because they do have big eyes, but then trying really hard not to overdo it and make them kind of realistic, but then I don't know. The picture, so my oldest son is the one in the back, and my middle kid, my younger son, is the one in the front. My older son's name is Jedediah. We call him Jeddy. The younger son's name is Judah. We call him Juju. It's actually a name given to him by his brother when he was just took him home from the hospital and he was just born, and we were trying to get Jedediah to say his name. He said, say Judah. And he said, Juju. We said, okay, say Jew. He'd say Jew. He'd say da. He'd say da. Okay, now say Judah. Juju. So now his name is forever Juju. Or it's funny because we actually even go and shorten that nickname to Juge or Juji. It sounds funny. We call him Juge a lot. Even Jedediah's picked up on that one. Sounds like George, kind of how these names go, I guess. One thing I've learned about drawing too is like scale has a lot to do with how things turn out and stuff. Because the smaller you draw, the bigger your pen tip is in relation to the drawing. Therefore, the fatter the lines. So there's kind of a point where, like, this is actually for a realistic drawing. Like, I'm drawing them way too small for the pen. So the lines are really thick, and it serves to like basically muddy your details. But my paper only allows so much. This happens to be the sketchbook that I have here in my work that I can use for Inktober drawings. But then the scale also goes the other way. Like, you can get to where it's too big, like the paper is too big for the pen, which you can make that work, but it just takes a lot longer to fill in areas and stuff because your pen portion doesn't cover the area. And then you'll have lines that are super thin, relatively thin to the drawing, and so then you have to go back and build them up somehow. And my style, I guess, or my method is to sketch things out first in pencil, which is kind of hard because it's like how much detail you really go into, especially with these drawings that you just do in a day's time, which translates into like half-hour drawings or maybe an hour, because I only can have my lunch hour to do. But it's like, with a pencil drawing, if I was going to do a charcoal or something, like I'd put in all the detail and the lights and the darks and really start working on laying in all those darks and lights and everything. But with pencil, it's really just a guide for the pen to come in later. But the more you have information you've given yourself with the pencil, the easier it is later to come in with the pen. So there's this big balancing act of like how much time have I put in. Give myself time to go back and ink. I noticed some people just looking at a lot of people on their Instagram for Inktober will kind of post a little short video clip of them, and so you get to see how they do it and see their drawing in some previous states before it was finished. And I see a lot of people actually do quite a bit of underlining pencil first, which would be nice. I feel like a lot of the people taking part, like the good ones on Inktober. People who are probably somehow able to spend a good chunk of the day working on either that really fast, which I would love to be able to do, but I have a job and I've got work to do. See, you don't know because you don't know my kids, but I'm not capturing his eyes right at all. It drives me crazy to the point where I just want to give up and turn these into like cartoon kids that aren't mine or something. It's also a hard thing too with ink is it's much more harsh than pencil, and like if you just like these lines under their eyes in real life, they're just kind of little shades. So I'm trying to be as careful as I can, but even any black there is too much, really. And like a line under the eyes, if it's a heavy line, it makes that person look old. But kids do have those shades under there, so it kind of without it doesn't look quite right. So I think I've already messed up and made his eye look too old. He's two, and he'll be 3 in January. Really little. Jedediah is 4. Yeah, I wish I could fix that eye, but it's also the eyelids hanging too low. It's kind of a lazy eye. So the reason I'm using this picture is they actually were sitting in a box this day, and I had drawn it to look like controls and the TV screen and everything for a little spaceship for them to be in. It's perfect for today's word. Of course, for the drawing here, I'm embellishing a little bit of the rocket to be a little more like a rocket. Pointing friends. But they really were out in space that day. Just kidding, of course. Lots of fun in this box, though. Like they say, kids always have a lot more fun with the box of their presents than the presents. It's very true. I think what it is because they have a much more of a chance to use their imagination. That box becomes whatever they want it to. That's what I think toy makers, like, they'll never admit it because they're trying to make their money, but their toys are inferior because they've basically played out any kind of imagination the kid would have and made it up for them. The kids, of course, don't realize that, but they get very bored of their toys very quickly because you can only really do. That's why Legos and that kind of type of toy are really good, great toys because lots more endless possibilities. I kind of feel like most of what's out there and like a lot of the baby toys and stuff are just ridiculous. Like they're just so many noises and lights, and it's just like I feel like it's not good for babies' eyes probably, and it's just like we have this one. It's a ball. We have lots of toys like this, but it's a ball that rolls around when you touch it, and then it tries to teach you numbers and colors and animals, and it plays songs and it rolls kind of randomly, but when I look at it, I can't tell what it's actually trying to teach you at any given moment. It's just too much stuff, like lights flashing, blinking, and rolling around. I feel like they've always, every time my kids have played with that, they've gotten really bored of it really quick. And they're just on to the next thing. It's like, I wonder, I always picture these people up in a boardroom somewhere trying to invent toys for kids, and they're thinking, like, yeah, let's just jam a whole bunch of more lights and sounds on the stupid thing. Which I would love to know if any of them actually have kids, and how did you like those toys rolling around making noise all the time? Some of them are so loud. You take the batteries out of them, or one parent we knew had a great idea. Like they poured glue into the speaker, and so the kids' toy still made the noise, so they could still have fun with it, but it really reduced how loud, brash the stupid thing was. That's the thing too. Is like I feel like when your toys don't make noises, then you learn how to make sound effects, right? And I know lots more toys make noise these days than I grew up. Move around and do stuff. But I've also been accused of being a curmudgeon, so maybe I'm just full of it. I don't know. But I wonder how I should do what's written on the box. What I mean is, how can I make it look hand drawn when it is hand drawn? Maybe I'll try it with the Sharpie. Half diamond Sharpie. Kind of. Okay. Still curious who my one viewer is. You got to be the same person that shows up every day. Is it you, Dave? If it's you, Dave, I'm on to you. See, we've been going for 18 minutes. 12 more minutes on lunch hour. See, I'm under a bit of a time crunch every day with these, which sucks because I would much rather spend lots of time, however much time is needed, make a good drawing. Yesterday's drawing was outpost, and my idea was to have a little outpost on the moon, and so it had a starry sky, kind of like this one's going to have. I remember this challenge last year because I did something like that with a starry sky. And how do you do stars? Normally you just do dot, 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 but when you're actually coloring the space back there black, like how do you get lots of random little white dots? I still don't know a great method to do that just with a pen like this. I was taught in high school a great way to do it with watercolor, which probably would work with ink too, but you need to have rubber cement. just splatter it where you're going to draw the sky, and then you color over it. And then when you're done, you can peel off the little bits of rubber cement. There's your stars. The other way I think a lot of people do is they use jelly rollers, like little white pens with white ink in them. So I actually have some of those at home. These last couple of days I've been doing the drawing here at work and don't have any such pen with me here. So I'm going to have to do like I did yesterday, which is basically just try and color the sky, leaving little spots, which makes it take a really long time to color all this black space. And strangely enough, it's really hard to be random. If you see my drawing yesterday, when I stood back and looked at it when I was done, it was like the stars actually look like they're in rows. It's weird. How did I do that? I was trying to be random. Hopefully this looks somewhat random. It's kind of hard to tell too without pulling back and looking at it. And if I have more time to do this drawing, I have more time to do that. The clock is ticking. My goal is to get this thing inked mainly within an hour. It's like there's nobody here like watching my lunch hour, but I like to be on the up and up, just ethically. I don't think I should be doing personal stuff on the clock, even when nobody's watching. Also, I know my bosses and stuff wouldn't care as long as I'm getting my work done, but that's an excuse unless they actually say go for it. I can't just say, oh, they don't care. Sometimes, though, I've been able to use the Inktober drawing in a project I'm working on, and then I don't feel bad about using work time because a lot of my projects actually have illustrations I need to do, and if the word matches up right, then nice. I can do this as work and as play. It's always weird. I've noticed every year that I've started live streaming my Inktober drawings, like the first day I'll get like almost 100 views or something, and then people get bored of it, or the algorithm's not turning it up in anybody's feed, and it just goes kind of silent for the rest of the month, except for 1 or 2 views every day. My music stopped, my free music. Kind of eventually would like to make my YouTube channel more about art and stuff. It's funny because if you actually go and look at my channel, it's little to do with art, even though it's called Josh Anderson Art, and just because other things I've had to upload are a lot easier to get done or whatever. Like one thing that I actually make the most money off of on my YouTube channel is my DIY videos called Blind Squirrel DIY, which have nothing to do with art, and it's me actually doing stuff in a field I'm least familiar with, not art. It's like household repairs and stuff like that. And I would like to do like Josh Anderson art tutorials and videos and stuff, but it just, one is finding the time, and two is I don't have a great camera. As you can tell, I'm sure if you're watching right now, I'm thinking, what in the world are you using? And honestly, I have no idea how old this thing is. Like this webcam that I'm using, my coworker found it in a drawer somewhere and gave it to me a few years ago. And the nice thing about it, instead of using like the webcam built into my iMac, is it's like built into the screen, so you can't face it anywhere. So that's why I'm using this one, because I can actually put it up somewhere, which I'm still having lots of trouble trying to position that thing. Like it's made to kind of pop over the top of a monitor, which is silly to me because then it's not any different than the built-in camera. But last year for Inktober, what I was doing is I was kind of hanging it off the back of my water bottle, and it seemed to work okay, I guess, because I could position it sort of behind my shoulder. I have a different water bottle now, and there's just nowhere to stick that thing. I found this like metal rod laying around in the closet, and I was able to stick it up on my bookshelf this year and hang it. So now I've got like the view is coming from higher up, but more directly over the drawing. But it's still really hard to position it right, and so it's actually forcing me to, like, I'm actually leaning forward a lot more to get this into the view than I normally would with a drawing. And that actually can affect my drawing ability quite a bit. I'm kind of sacrificing to be able to make a video of this. So I would, like in the future, I would like a better setup, like a nicer camera. What I could do is, if I don't bother doing it live, I have a point and shoot that's one I use to make my DIY videos. It's decent. It's getting older now. Actually, that thing, it has this weird, I'd love to talk to a camera person that knows anything. It makes this noise. It's a digital camera, but something is a moving part in it that picks up on the audio. It's like it almost sounds like you're listening to a beat, kind of like this music you hear right now in the distance. But it's the camera. It just makes it sound. Life of me, and the camera is a rugged camera. Like it's meant to be able to be dropped, or like dropped in water. It's waterproof. You can go in the water with it. It's a great adventure camera. It's just, like I said, it's just a point and shoot. It's not a DSLR or anything like that. It would be cool to have a nice DSLR set up on some kind of a stand, like an arm or something that I could position over my shoulder, because I think the best view for a drawing is up here behind my shoulder, right? But if I could get it a little more behind me, then I wouldn't have to lean forward so much. So I am right now. So I actually picked up this technique from people I've seen on the Inktober hashtag, of like kind of putting your drawing in a little circle like this. And partly it's cool stylistically, just kind of like finishes the drawing off and makes it look interesting or whatever. But also what it does, especially when you have a sky like this, it limits how big I have to make that. And I should have done that yesterday. I wasn't thinking about it, because doing all these little stars is so time consuming. Really running out of time, but this would have taken a lot longer if I didn't have it inside the circle. So give me a thumbs up or maybe make a comment or something if you're watching. Like I'm starting to think that maybe YouTube is just giving me one view just to make me feel confident or something. It's not really a person. Be real. Live streaming is, like I said yesterday, it's so weird because you're talking to someone who can, if they reply, can only reply by text, like writing something. It just feels weird. It feels like you're talking to yourself, really. Hence the rambling. See, I've done it again. I've somehow lined my stars up. They're supposed to be random, like really random. Okay, we're almost done with the stars. That takes a little bit. So now the next thing I like to do is I really like to give a sculpted line to my drawings. Tell me if I've already said this if you've been watching before. So I remember learning about sculpted lines in college, graphic art classes, and I had never heard of it before. It really makes your drawing a lot more interesting. If I could go back to my teenage self, looking at some of my old drawings, one of my biggest points of advice for myself would be to give drawings more form by adding more shadow and stuff, but also just giving more sculpted lines instead of just drawing a straight line all the way around. Because I think I'd started to pick up on it in college, and I could see that's what people do with cartoons, and I wanted to have that look, but I didn't know how to achieve it. And so I actually tried drawing with a Sharpie, which is horrible. Sharpies are good for some things, but not to do your line work, because it's an equal weight line all the way around, and it muddies, and it's just ugly looking. So they taught us in graphic design using Adobe Illustrator kind of how to do sculpted lines, but of course that was using Adobe Illustrator. So to do it by hand, I've actually learned it really is, going around and making that line, and it's kind of subjective as to where you put the thicknesses, but usually you put them on the underside or where shadow might be, make the lines thicker, thinner where light is and stuff, but sometimes that just doesn't always work out. You kind of just get a feel for where you want it. Let's see, this is his shirt right here. That's his hand. See, I learned that one of my frustrations on my older drawings thickness of line, and it's like I thought I was doing like a cool looking line, but it was just too thick in proportion to the drawing. The thick line can look really great on the outside, but when you get into the inner details, it muddies things up. See, on this, since this is the edge of the drawing, I want this to be almost ridiculously thick. And also you have to remember too I've drawn that to be the edge of the box, and if I were to just trace that line, I would lose the structure of the box that I've drawn. So this outline needs to be on the outside of that line. It's something using Adobe Illustrator has taught me too, because you can control the stroke of a line. You can put the stroke on the inside or the outside. Also, one thing to notice of, like, if you have a curved object, whenever you're doing like cross hatching under it to follow the curve of it, or if you don't do that, you'll lose the shape of your object. This does not look like my son's at all. I'm embarrassed to say. What is the viewer out there know? Only my wife will know. Family, when they see it. There's a lot of times I'm like scared to, I think their faces need some shade. But if you don't do it just right, it can look like a beard. One thing I do, I always have a reference photos kind of ready to go over here, obviously outside of your view. I have the picture that I'm drawing from, and then I have like a rocket over here just to kind of see. Of course, that's not really playing into effect at all, but a lot of people are kind of surprised when they find out I use reference photos, but I'm willing to bet you most artists and most of the people participating in Inktober have some kinds of reference photos, because most of us cannot remember how things look in our head. You think you do. Again, I think it plays back to that thing of your mind building what you know of something out of more than just the visuals. And so, like, you think you remember how something looks, but there's a lot more playing into how that looks. And so, I mean, anybody will tell you when you try to just draw something out of your head, it's like, why can't I? It's like I can see it so clearly in my head, but I cannot figure out how to draw it. Some people are just amazing artists or whatever, and they've practiced enough or whatever, they can do that. Like, if I were to draw something like every day, if I were to draw horses every day, I could eventually draw a pretty realistic, good horse just out of memory. So then you can kind of piece together your memories of what horses look like, what you've drawn before. There's very few things that I can draw enough and often enough to be that committed to memory. Gosh, I wish I could fix his eye. It looks so weird. Yeah. Not doing my dirt boys any justice here. It's there. Too cute for words. You know, as with every day of doing this, I get to a place where I feel like the drawing could use more, and like I can always do more, but I'm running out of time. So I'm just gonna have to call it And it turns out my 2-year-old, for his second birthday party, we actually did a rocket theme. And we built a rocket out of a big cardboard box. It didn't look like this one. No, it stood up. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to call that good. Probably, see, keep trying to stop, and then I see more I can do. Okay.